We're now joined by correspondent in Paris, France, Ross Cullen. A very good day to you. Thanks very much for availing yourself to SABC News this afternoon. Let's talk about, in fact, let's start with some background some background info. And engage us, please, on the history and the relationship, really, between Paris and Moscow. Would Macron even be the correct person, the right person to make the call to Putin? I mean, he was in Russia just a couple of weeks before all of this started, and of course, whatever he did there didn't necessarily help, now did it?
He has been keeping open all possible diplomatic lines of contact. Emmanuel Macron has really tried to position himself as the go-between for this shuttle diplomacy, regularly holding calls with Vladimir Putin, with Volodymyr Zelensky, with other world leaders as well, and of course his allies in the European Union and in the West, President Joe Biden, Prime Minister Johnson, Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada as well. So Emmanuel Macron really trying to assure Vladimir Putin that he is willing to talk. He is willing to keep that line of communication open. The European Union has not closed the door to dialogue, has not closed the door on trying to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. But it does seem that the conditions that he has laid out are not the conditions that Vladimir Putin would like to see. Vladimir Putin suggested to Emmanuel Macron that European recognition of Russia owning Crimea, that Crimea is part of Russia, would be one way that the crisis, the current conflict, could possibly be stopped if Europe were to recognise that. Or Western allies have refused to recognise that. They see the 2014 annexation of Crimea by Russia as illegal. They still see the peninsula as an integral part of Ukraine. Emmanuel Macron did say to Vladimir Putin that he wants to see an immediate halt to all Russian military activity inside Ukraine. Vladimir Putin said he would have the will to engage on some of those points. He didn't agree to, but he did say he would have the will to engage on some of those points. They did agree, the two leaders, to keep a close contact line open and speak again in the coming days.
You know, you use the word suggesting. He suggested to Putin. Interestingly enough, according to his own social media, President Emmanuel Macron says that he in fact demanded, he demanded compliance with international humanitarian law from Putin. And one wonders, would he be in the position to make demands to the Russian president? That's one part of my question. The second part of my question is that Macron has also, through his social media, added that he's in constant communication, as you rightly say, with the Ukrainian president. Perhaps also talk to us about that, and perhaps if we have an understanding of what the Ukrainian president is then saying in response to Macron.
Well, he did, of course, demand things of Russian President Vladimir Putin. That is exactly what has been going on. There is a war taking place in southeast Europe, and so the European Union has been firm in its demands to Russia that there must be an immediate cessation of hostilities. There must be an immediate withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine, and also a withdrawal of Russian forces from Belarus as well. The European Union has been sanctioning Belarus. It sees it as an enabling state, as a facilitating state, or to use Emmanuel Macron's word, complicit in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So there has been this line of communication between Putin and Macron, president to president, trying to put forward the point of view from the Kremlin and from the French government. But the situation is so serious. There's been so much loss of life that the European Union and Emmanuel Macron are making demands. They are demanding that this war be ended as soon as possible. And they do see Russia as the country that started this war. And so it must be Russia to take the first steps to put this war to an end.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about Macron and the calls that he's made and the demands that he's made, are we likely to see a situation indeed where Putin does, in fact, listen to Macron's demands and halts the offensive against Ukraine? But also, on the back of that, is he likely to return the call? You know, Macron saying that I have asked him to stay in contact over the next coming days. Are we sure that Putin would in fact be doing that? I think that he's got a lot on his hands, clearly, and one wonders if he would be keeping in communication with Macron.
He would be keeping in communication with Macron. He's got a lot on his hands, you're right, because there has been a lot of going on in Ukraine, and so the European Union and Western allies have been trying to apply maximum pressure to Russia to force it to end its occupation invasion of Ukraine and the destabilizing presence that they see Russia as in the region. Now, Vladimir Putin did also make demands of Emmanuel Macron and the European Union that they listen to Russia's security concerns, that they agree to Russia's security guarantees, that Ukraine remain neutral, that Ukraine does not join NATO. But we have seen the Ukrainian president sign a letter of submission to try to join the European Union. So that it shows how quickly things are moving in Kiev, in the Ukrainian capital. The lines of communication are open with Volodymyr Zelensky. We know that Emmanuel Macron regularly calling him, and there's no reason why there wouldn't be further calls between Vladimir Putin and Emmanuel Macron. He is trying to show that he is open to dialogue, Mr. Macron, but at the same time showing that he is also determined and united with his European colleagues to try to continue applying what they describe as the harshest package of sanctions ever imposed on a country. His finance minister, Emmanuel Macron's finance minister, speaking this morning, Tuesday, in Paris, saying that we are going to unleash a total economic and financial war on Russia that could well lead to the collapse of the Russian economy. So the European Union allies are united in this, increasingly turning up the pressure, accelerating and deepening their sanctions demands on Russia to try to stop this conflict.
All right. Thanks very much for speaking to us, Ross Cullen.